Hi, everyone. Peldi here, substitute hosting for Steve again. Today, I'm joined by frequent co-host Ed Freyfogle. Welcome, Ed.
Welcome, Peldi. Great that you've been taking over the show for the last couple of weeks.
Thanks,
You've
thanks. It's been pretty fun. We'll talk about it near the end of today's episode. But first, I know that you have a question for me.
Yeah, I was thinking, what we could talk about, and one thing that's very interesting about you, I think, compared to many people in the bootstrapper community, is, you've been running your business for quite a long time. How many years has it been now?
2008, so 13.
13 years, that's a long time. So, we have a lot of people who are just getting started, or they have an idea, or they're still working, they have a full-time job, and they're getting their idea going on the side, but you've been doing it now for 13 years. So, and my question is, before I started my current business, I myself had a business for about 10 years, and I struggled with something. I got really bored with it, frankly. After it was a real struggle to keep the motivation after a couple of years, because at the beginning, like when you're building it for the first time, that's of course exciting, and then then when you start having some success, you get the first customers, that's really exciting, and maybe like in our case, our service was kind of country by country, so we would kind of launch the second country, launch the third country, really exciting milestones. But when you're launching the eighth country, it's not as exciting anymore. And also, like, there came a point where I just wasn't learning as much anymore, and the customers in each country had its own little differences, but fundamentally the customers were the same, asking the same questions, and it just, I got really burned out on it.
So,
And
so what did you
uh,
do?
well, first we tried to sell the company. I mean, not just because. So first of all, I should clarify. I had a co-founder as well, and this wasn't a bootstrap business. This was we had taken investment first from some angels, but then also from like institutional investors. Not a massive amount, and not like big name VCs or anything, but we did have external investors and things, um, and so the goal of the investors, but also our goal, was to find some kind of exit. And the problem was we couldn't really. We kind of fell exactly into that kind of sweet spot where most startups die, or you have the outrageous, insane successes that the Instagrams of the world or whatever. And instead, we were just a nicely, solidly profitable business, with growth, some steady growth, but nothing outrageous and it was a struggle. We tried to sell, and for whatever reason we weren't able to sell at a price that was acceptable. Um, and at that point, that was kind of very sobering, because then I really kind of felt trapped there at that business, particularly because as by now, like 5 or 6 years had gone on, and some of the employees started leaving, just because, not because they disliked our business, but just life at some point moves on, and people want to. Our business was based also in London, which is a very transitory city. A lot of people come there for a couple of years and then eventually want to go back to their home country, or whatever, so people would kind of move on, and yet I felt kind of trapped there, and I got really burned out about it. And luckily, we were then able to sell. A couple of years later, we were able to sell at a price that we were all happy with, and the story ended happily. But I don't know, how do you deal with this? How do you stay excited about just one topic? And
Yeah.
um
Yeah, so that's a good story. Did you ever, sorry, before I answer, did you consider just hiring some managers for it and just
Yeah, we did.
continuing
We,
to
we
own it?
did,
Or
and that was kind of the path we were going to go down if we weren't able to sell. But honestly, it's not so easy to hire just to find a manager. And the business also had some issues in that, like, the growth. It was heavily dependent on SEO,
Hmm,
and the first couple of years we've been very good at SEO, and then SEO got harder and harder.
hmm.
This was kind of the time, you may recall, like the Panda updates and these kind of things started happening. So it was getting harder and harder. And the worst case scenario would be we spend a lot of money to bring in a manager, and then watch as the manager as the business slowly declines,
Right.
right? And bear in mind, especially at that time, I mean, this business represented, a huge proportion of my net worth,
Mm-hmm. Of
right?
course.
So it's very difficult to just say like, oh, here are the keys.
Yeah, 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 of
I'm going to
course.
go do something else.
Yeah, 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 yeah. All right. Well, what I think I can say is that uh, it's a very natural thing to happen. Um, just like you said, the job changes from creating something from scratch to managing something well, and that's a very different job.
It's a
At
different
first,
thing.
it's probably you and a co-founder, so it's mostly about the work, and then later, as the company grows, it becomes more about the people. So completely different set of problems. The other thing is that this is something that is really hard to talk about because you're the boss, you're making money, you have a successful business,
Well,
so
that's
how
exactly
dare
it.
you complain about this, right?
On paper, we were kind of a big success. We weren't
Yeah,
the Instagrams of the world, but we were, we had a
yeah,
profitable business and our
yeah,
customers liked us, and the employees looked up to you.
yeah.
And exactly, it's
So
hard
yeah,
to
it's
complain.
how dare you're so privileged, tiny violin, people are, they don't
Exactly.
want to hear about it. But it's it's really unfair. I was talking to Natalie Nagel about this years ago, and she said all of our employees can easily change career if they want to. They just
Yeah.
quit and they go somewhere else, right? We can't. We're stuck with this one business, right? We can't easily just leave because the company, it would be too big of a change for the company all at once. So I mean, it would be very risky for us to do it. So it is unfair that the founders or the owners can't really leave. So although it's hard to complain about it, I think that it's totally legit to do. So what I'm doing about it, so I've had some ups and downs. So there was a moment a couple of years ago where I realized that the company was still revolving too much around me. And
Mm.
so my way to deal with that was to remove myself completely from everything all at once, which is the stupidest thing you can do. But I wanted to see what would break first so that I knew where I was needed first.
But wait, so with no preparation at all, one day you're just
No,
like,
I
I'm
said,
going to
you
the
guys,
beach.
things are going well. Let me inject some turbulence. I want to
Okay.
know what my job really should be because I was, helping everybody and having fun. But I felt like uh, I want to know, where am I needed the most? And so I thought, okay, I'm not going to do anything else. I closed all the Slack notifications and all the commit messages. I basically stopped watching and
And did
waited.
you designate like one person to kind of be your replacement, or
Nope,
you just said
nope.
no? So okay.
I wanted to see what would happen. Anyways, I would do it differently now. But a result of that is that I got totally bored because I wasn't doing anything. And
Right.
so
But
that came.
what happened to the business? I mean, did things break?
Uh, some things went well. Some things started breaking. We learned a lot. Actually, we realized
Okay.
that my main job that I was doing without really knowing was that I was being the product manager. We didn't have such a role before because I've been doing
Right.
it since day one and didn't even think we needed one. And now we found that. We had some other issues here and there, but we also had a lot of growth as a company. People stepped up to the plate, and so it was a bit traumatic for sure, but we're in a much better place now. Anyways, but with that boredom came such guilt because I felt like I was betraying my baby. Uh, you know, it was pretty depressing actually.
And did you
So
wait? Did you physically, like, you didn't come to the office? You didn't check email, or what? You like went on
I
vacation, or what do you mean you?
well, yeah, I mean, we're all remote. I still logged on a lot less, But I was mostly just reactive, seeing, just responding if people called me or even,
Okay.
at an issue. But other than that, I was actively trying not to work on anything. I was, noticing what was needed and trying to delegate it and doing a lot of
And
that.
how long of a period was this? How many weeks
This
or how
was
many?
maybe 3 months,
Oh
maybe
wow. Okay.
more, because then there was the summer. So yeah, maybe 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was. This was years ago. I would not recommend it. The other approach would be take one piece of your job and try to work on that, and then do another piece and then another piece. Anyways, that was the only time where I felt like I was bored, and it felt really strange. Um,
And you didn't have any urge to work on something else or any like side projects or
yeah,
ideas you had
so
had in the back of your head for a while that you now had time to work on or
yes, so I thought hey, maybe I'll start another business because I was bored. And then I slapped myself because I
okay.
thought, no, this is not how it works. Yeah, the company obviously still needs me, and this is I'm the opposite of a serial entrepreneur. I had one good idea, and I'm going to try and milk it for as long as possible.
Well,
Um,
see, because I did try that. I mean, I did try starting other businesses or investing in other businesses because I was so bored.
it
But
seems like such a distraction, and the wrong thing to do to your existing business, really. Um,
yeah, you end up
anyways,
doing multiple things badly instead
but
of one
what
thing
I
well.
what I did decide was, okay, let's do this right. Let's if my goal for balsamic is to survive me, right? It's kind of an Italian thing. I want a multi-generational business.
Mm,
And so in order for balsamic to do that, it needs to work very well without me. In fact, my goal is for it to work better without me than with me, right?
sure.
Now, I might not achieve that, but even if we come close, that would be really good. So at the end of this turbulence experiment, I said, okay, this is my new 5-year plan. In 5 years, I'm gonna make it so that I'm no longer needed for day-to-day work at balsamic. And
Wow.
so a 5-year plan is much better than doing it all of a sudden. And so we've actively been working on it for a couple of years, and I think that we're kind of on track for another couple of
But
years.
just to clarify, are you? I mean, I understand the goal of that plan, and it makes sense because as they say, everyone exits their business one way or
One way
another,
or
right?
another,
So,
yeah.
but are you actually bored of balsamic, or
No,
I mean, I have the impression you're not. It seems you're still quite excited by
I
it
am not.
and the
I'm quite
possibilities of it.
excited. So my mental hack that I've had since day one is what the Stoics say: reframe the question so that you can't fail. So instead of saying I want to start a business, I said I want to learn what it takes to start a business. So
Hmm.
that way, even if the business failed, I still would have learned something, right? So I
Right.
couldn't fail. So my motivation has always been, as long as I'm learning stuff, I'm happy, right? And
Okay.
so this is a 5-year plan, and so I'm thinking, can I figure out how to make myself not needed by the business in 5 years? And this is my exciting, very challenging 5-year plan, which then results in, you know, 50 smaller projects.
Gotcha.
Uh, and so for 5 years, I'm happy. And then after five, if this happens, I'll come up with another 5-year plan. If it doesn't, it's always, the plan is always kind of evolving, but I like giving myself these sort of five
What are
year.
the kind of how far are you into this 5-year plan now?
Well, I think we're halfway there, right? Like right
Okay.
now, we're introducing the concept of people managers, which we've never had. So now we're 33 employees and we're flat, but
Wait,
really
so
we're
so until now, you have been managing all 33 people or whatever, or
yes and no, because you can't really manage people well
exactly.
when you have 33. And so we have these concepts of leads and organizers, and I've been
I see.
avoiding the word manager, but a lot of people are doing management type things. but it's not official, so they don't know how far they can go. They have to come to me when it's a tough situation. So, the project for this year is let's figure out what kind of manager we want to have at Balsamic and see how we can put that in place, right? So that's one step towards me
Right.
being
Okay.
less needed. Yeah. So I guess to answer your question, my hack is make it a learning, continue to learn uh, as much as possible, right? So
Yeah.
I still have a lot to learn. The other thing is my goal at the end of the 5 years is not to leave. My goal is to be able to say, okay, I'm not needed as the CEO right now. I still have 3 or 4 jobs, but I'm no longer needed as those jobs. Now I can do whatever I want inside the company. I can
Yeah.
help train this group. I can,
But that's difficult, man, because so I can speak only from my own experience. We then at my company, so I had been kind of the head of the product side of things, and as I was getting very bored, and so we said, all right, let's bring in people to replace me, and we found a product manager, and but it's very difficult if you're still around, like, does that person really have full authority, or is it everyone's still checking with you? You know,
right. Yeah. Well,
that's
that's
very
part of the
difficult.
challenge, right? That you got to solve that. If you
Yeah.
really want to be able to not be there, then the other thing that I do is that in July and August, I barely work. Every summer,
Yeah.
I try to work less and less and less. Last summer, I think I worked maybe an average of an hour a day, and
I
nobody
we
noticed.
do that as well. We try to structure our business that way as well. But just to be clear, that's you doing that, or everyone in the
No,
company
that's
is
me,
kind of
mostly me.
okay.
Yeah, so that's my test. Every summer, I try to work a little less and see if things break or not.
Well, that's good.
Um, anyways, so yeah, my goal is to see if I can work on whatever, or maybe do something else. Right? I'm cultivating a woodworking hobby,
All right.
and who knows? Maybe if I only need to work at Balsamic once a quarter or twice a quarter to do some visioning or whatever, help with whatever is needed, then the rest of the time I can build furniture
But how
and
do you?
raise
I mean,
chickens.
so that raises a very good point as well, because my wife is always on me that I should get some hobbies, but the problem is, I find is, of course, I can go away from the keyboard, or like in the summer I work a lot less because the kids are off school, but it's very difficult to purge it out of your mind. I find the business is always in my head, and I'm always thinking about this or that, or oh, we could do this, or you read some news about something that happens in your industry, and you're like, oh, we better make sure we, how are we going to respond to that, or that's a good potential partner, or whatever. Like it's very difficult to truly, sit on the beach and just read a book and not think about it.
I think it gets easier if you have a lot of people and you can tell that things are getting taken care of, including these reading the news and noticing new things.
Yeah.
That's a job as well. It doesn't have to always be you doing that. Um, if I think once you're past a certain size and maturity, it becomes easier to detach for sure. In
I found it a
fact,
struggle.
hobbies are kind of dangerous because you might get too excited about the hobby because it's new and you're learning a ton,
Sure.
and then you were like, "Oh crap, I gotta go back to work."
Yeah. What about how do you deal with, I mean, one thing that I've often heard when I talk, so I know many founders of many businesses, small and large, and many of them are my friends, and one continuing complaint that founders have, is that no employee ever cares as much as a founder cares, right? Or it's
Sure.
very difficult to find. So, and I think that's just the nature of the beast, right? And it can go both ways in terms of like employees caring too little, or probably founders caring too much and
Yeah.
making themselves crazy. So, how do you reconcile that? Or do you see that as an issue, or
I don't think
or
that's that big of an issue, really. The one thing is to sort of develop this sort of a healthy distance from the business.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the hardest part for a founder. It becomes from being your baby and you control all of it to being a business that you own,
All
right?
right.
As if you bought a timeshare somewhere, or
Well,
um,
I found that's much easier when you're in your second or third business, I find, because then it doesn't.
then
That was a
then you
big.
understand, yeah. But I
Then
think that it's
you see
that's
it work more.
healthy, really. I think that even if you're on your one company, I've been trying to do that. I've been trying to sort of develop a little bit of a distance. It's otherwise you made yourself a job. You didn't start a business. You created
All
yourself
right.
a job, and a job that you can't leave. But if it's your business, you have more control than that. You should be able to, if you do things right, the business should work even without you. So that's really my ultimate goal, is not to sell, but to own it, see it do well, take
Yeah.
dividends once a year,
Yeah.
and then figure out what else I want to do with my life. Um, I feel like everybody is entitled to have multiple careers in their lifetime, and every 12 years or so, or 15 years, if you can. Uh, there's nothing wrong with trying something else.
Well, I do know some founders though who say, okay, fine, my current business, I could sell it but all I'm going to then do is take a 6 month break and immediately start a new business. So why not instead just keep trying to make this
Yep.
business as big as possible, right? And aim for some big exit or something, whatever that may be.
Yeah, but then I don't think it matters. I don't think it makes a difference. I don't think the goal of as big as possible, that's not attractive to me at all. Big businesses are more stressful, more risky, more. Uh, uh, I don't ever want to own a big business. Um,
But
a
what for you is a
good
big business?
business,
I mean, 30 plus employees is already a pretty big business, in my opinion.
well, maybe for this podcast, but not really.
Obviously, I understand it. I mean, it's not a multinational thing, but I mean, there's a big leap from, let's say, just founders to a few employees to, I mean, 30 plus. You have to have some structure and.
Yeah, but you don't. We haven't hired anyone in a year.
Okay.
A big business hires 30 people a month. That
Sure, you have people
is
coming and going all the
a
time.
completely different thing. What I want is a good, long-lasting business, and I will keep working on it until it's no longer needed. Um, Sorry, what was your question again? Why not just
Uh,
keep going? Or
yeah, why not? Well, some people say, one strategy is to say, I sell my business, I
oh,
get
yeah,
my
yeah,
business
yeah,
to the point where I'm not needed and then I'm hands off and I can
right,
sell it, right?
yeah,
But then if all I'm going to do is take that money and then immediately start a
yeah,
new business because I am the serial
right.
entrepreneur,
So I
why not
spoke
instead
with
just make it
with a
big?
few people that had sold about this, and Michael Pryor of Trello says, he sold, and then he stayed on because he said, "This is the most fun that I have. I
Hmm.
will get bored if I stayed home." Then I spoke with Jason Cohen of WP Engine, and he said, well, make sure you're not running away from something, but you're running towards something else. So only sell when you have something else lined up that you're super excited about going
Right.
towards. That way you don't have that period of 6 months where you have to find yourself, which
Yeah,
I
but
thought
then,
was
I mean,
interesting.
of course, the lightning bolt may strike and you have some idea of what the next thing is. But what I found is that the way you find the next thing is by trying things out, right?
Right.
So then you have to kind of do that on the side.
Yeah.
I guess you got to create the space within your current
Yeah.
business
Either way, you got to
to do that.
create your own, you have to free your schedule.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing. This morning I did an hour of woodworking between meetings because I could afford to, and I enjoyed it. Uh,
That's
If
great.
this will become my next career, I don't think so right now, but who knows? I'm experimenting with things.
That's
And I
cool.
can do that because I've been actively working on freeing my schedule as much as possible. So anyways, the answer is it's not easy. It's going to take a long time. You can always sell. That's the other thing. I can only afford to do this because things are going so well, right? If we were struggling with runway, or if we, if the business was required my full attention every day, even after 13 years, that's a bad sign,
Yeah.
So in that case, there's no shame in trying to sell and
Well,
then
you can
getting a job
always
somewhere.
you can always sell. The question is it at a price that you're happy with, right? I mean, it could be that the business, the business could be doing badly for multiple reasons. It could be issues internal to the business. It could just be the market has changed and there's a competitor or something that's putting pressure on you, or
Yeah,
you know, that's the difficult scenario when
right.
the story is no longer so positive. It's no longer just up to the right, and at that point, you're trying to sell. That's
But that's kind of out of your control, That's
yeah.
that's where you are right now. If you can hack it for another 2 years, like you guys did, in order to get to a better place, fine. Otherwise, you sell when you have to.
Yeah. All right.
Anyways, good topic. It's hard to. Not a lot of people like to
And
talk about it.
and so what about now your foray into podcasting here? Is that the new hobby? You're gonna go
Well, this was
professional?
another experiment for us. And we've been talking for years whether we should start our own podcast, yes or no. Um, we did some research on what it takes, who does it well, and this was a great opportunity for me to give it a
To
try
try it.
with low risk and a time bound experiment. So uh, overall, I like the experience quite a bit. Um, it's I found that it's a great way to have interesting conversations with interesting people that you might not normally get to schedule with. Right? They'll
Absolutely,
come
Peldi.
in
I mean,
because it's a
normally I
podcast.
wouldn't clear my calendar to talk with
I know
you know
specifically you,
someone like
who,
yourself,
as
but
we know very well, are the star of the show these days.
so no, that's exactly. I mean, I have another podcast that's more relevant to my business about the Geo event that I run, and that's exactly it. Is like it gives you an entry point to talk with anyone about anything, and
Yeah,
it's really it is some effort to do it. The thing is, you need to be consistent. You need to have a
yeah,
consistent schedule
yeah.
and stick with it. And definitely that can be hard at times, like if you want to take the
No,
summer off or whatever.
it is
But
brutal.
if
Uh,
you spread the load across multiple people, so I have a co-host, and sometimes he does it, sometimes I do it, sometimes we do it together. Makes it much
Yeah,
more manageable.
what I learned is really that it's a ton of work. I think it takes at least three people to do it well. You need uh at the end you need an editor who does the
Yeah,
editing, puts it online, do the snippets for social media and all that and all the marketing. Then before that you need the host, and that's the fun part. It's an hour, it's unscripted, it's challenging, and that's good. But before that, there's so much work. You have to research potential guests that fit with the audience.
yeah.
You have to make a list of the finalists. You have to study each of them, which means listening to their talks, reading their books or their articles at least a little bit, so that you don't
Yeah,
always
although
ask the
I
same
mean, I'm
questions.
assuming if you did the podcast for your company, right, then that's a subject matter that you have a lot of familiarity with, right? Or would I
Well,
guess maybe not, but
if
depends what
it's
the
an
topic
interview
is. But
format, I would still have to, do all these things, and then you recruit them, and then you schedule them. It seems like you need a producer type person.
a lot of that can be you get better, or like with the scheduling, I use a scheduling tool. Like it's not that big a
Yeah, no,
deal.
that part is
You
not
get
hard.
faster.
It's mostly the making sure the pipeline is full
Yeah,
of guests so that you can have the pipeline on the other end spit out an episode a week. The weekly schedule is fantastic from an audience point of view. I listen to a lot of podcasts and I look forward to the day that they come out, or
Yeah, sure.
on YouTube. But it is brutal for the creators. I can see, I completely understand why the YouTubers all burn out after a couple of years, because
Yeah.
a weekly schedule is terrible. So if you have several co-hosts that can take turns, or then
Yeah, I mean the other thing you can do is do what they call seasons or topics. So you do a, I don't know, 6 week block about a certain topic, and then you
yeah,
take a break for a
yeah,
month, and then do another 6 week block or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah,
But it is true that if you want to build the audience, I think you have to have the consistent every single week, so people get in the habit of listening
yeah,
to you.
yeah. It's pretty brutal,
So
but so I don't know. I don't know. Let's ask the audience. Do you think we should ask a balsamic podcast? It would be kind of similar to this one, but with maybe half of it would be actually on education of
well,
user interface design,
what
wireframing.
I find very interesting, the style of podcasts so I mean, there are a lot of podcasts like what we're doing right now where you have a topic and you interview someone about it, and then you can learn a lot from that. But I also like the podcasts where people just kind of talk about what's going on kind of behind the scenes of their business, the pros and cons.
Yeah,
So particularly, I mean, if it's a brand that I'm a customer of, or that I like, or I'm enthusiastic about whatever they're doing, then I think that can also be very interesting. So maybe if you did balsamic, maybe half of them are interviews, maybe with customers or people from the design industry or whatever, and then half could just be you guys talking about like, oh, we're thinking about building this, or here's why
yeah,
this is hard, kind of behind the scenes kind of
yeah.
look.
We could interview different employees. What are you working
Okay.
on? Kind of stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I find it. I have this aversion to things that create work. The
Yeah,
curse of
sure.
maintenance, and this
Well, that's a real issue. Yeah.
this smells a lot like something where we're gonna, after 1 or 2 years, we're gonna be like, oh no, not another podcast.
Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, I also put off doing the podcast for a long time because I was like, oh, it's gonna be hard. I don't know. And then once it becomes part of your rhythm, and as long as you find a way to distribute the work across multiple shoulders,
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
this is my last episode of my little substitute hosting experience. So I'll see if I start missing the excitement in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Anyways, actually, this is perfect way to end because we're out of time. So thank you, Ed, and thank you, Steve, for giving me this opportunity, and thanks to all the listeners. Let me know. Give me whatever feedback you can think of.
Well,
Uh,
thanks for filling in, Peldi. I've enjoyed all the episodes, and it's been fun. So, am I going to see you at MicroConf Europe again this year?
oh, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I haven't decided yet.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I hope so.
All
So,
right. Well,
good
have
talking with
fun.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.